Well, good morning. The Vandee Globe race, the Everest of the seas. It was scheduled and it did go off without a hitch per se this year. It's a 24,000-mile race around the world. And it's not just going around the world at the equator, taking advantage of the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. No, it goes elsewhere. And this Italian wrote a article about his vision or his thoughts about this race, about one particular individual that was partaking in this race and wrote this article. He titled it, "The Woman Who Scared Away Fear." This afternoon, I watched a video of Alexa, and my idea of overmuch changed forever. Alexa is an ocean sailor, and together with her boat, the TSE, For My Planet, she has taken part in the Vendée Globe competition, single-handed around the world race. The particularity of this race is that you don't easily pass through the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, keeping yourself at normal latitudes. With normal winds and temperatures, the Vendée Globe guys circumnavigate the world, passing through the Antarctica. And this would even sound like a triviality, so I'll spend a few words on the route as to do it justice, because I assure you, it is everything but banal. The race starts in France. On the French Atlantic coast, the competitors then descend to the Atlantic until reaching South Africa. They round the Cape of Good Hope and head towards Australia, navigating through the roaring 40s. They owe the name to the fact that in part of the world, the 40th parallel south, the wind blows at such intensity to create a noise similar to a roar. The journey then takes the sailors past the Cape Leeuwin, the southwesterly mainland point of Australia, down over the 50th parallel south, where they enter the so-called furious 50s. Here, the western wind blows with even more intensity, constantly going over 40 knots. This means on the Beaufort scale of descriptions on the shore, twigs break off twigs. Generally impedes progress. Well, what for us is extreme conditions is considered to be normal. Run in this area. And then you have waves, 9 to 12 feet high, the height of a double-decker bus, and then the cold weather and the threat of icebergs. This is what happens during the calm days. If the weather's bad, it can be worse, much worse. And this is exactly the enjoyable stretch of sea that our Alexa is sailing during these hours, covering 300 nautical miles a day. The Nemo Point, despite its name, is not an actual point, it's more of a concept. In order to make it understandable to those who are less accustomed to sea stories, I hope you'll allow me another short digression. Have you ever been alone? No doubt you have been alone in your house. The nearest human being standing no more than 60 feet from you. Maybe alone in the streets at night, a bit of anxiety. The nearest human being staying no more than 300 feet from you. Some of you may be alone in the woods, on a mountain, or in the countryside. The nearest human being staying no more than, we'll say, 6 miles from you. Those between us have experienced solitude may have crossed some desert or wasteland where the nearest human being has been 150 miles from you, while these sailors crossed an ocean, who are alone in their boats for months. By the time they reach Nemo Point, they find themselves the furthest place from any stretch of land in the whole Earth, 1,500 miles. From Nemo Point, you can head any direction, but in order to find any stretch of land, whether it's a small island or a mere rock, you'll need to cover at least 1,500 miles. Just to be clear, the most advanced helicopters can only cover a range of 500 miles. Interesting enough, when you're at Nemo Point, you find yourself being closer to anyone but the astronauts of the International Space Station than to any other human being. 1,500 miles of ocean around you doesn't mean you being alone on your boat, but it means being quite beyond the possibility of rescue or aid from anyone in the outside world, truly alone. On a sailboat, far from everyone and everybody, surrounded by the noises of the wind screaming so much that day after day, you can't hear any other sound, with waves as high as a bus on good days. In cold seas, there can even be icebergs. And is in such extreme conditions, in this absolute solitude, that evening of the 20th of December, Alexa realized she had a problem. A great one. Her boat was losing energy. Contrary to what you think, running out of energy while you're alone on a boat near the Nemo Point doesn't only affect the race or make things uncomfortable. Survival is a significant risk. Energy is crucial for the water makers to provide drinking water, the navigation tools, the meteorological equipment, radars, communication, lights, heating, and last but not least, the autopilot, which is vital. In short, without energy, you can't drink, can't communicate, no weather forecast, avoid icebergs, but what's more important than single-handed race, you can't sail. Ultimately, you can't get back home. With the assistance of her ground team, Alexa understood the problem caused by the malfunctioning of a hydro generator generating power for her boat. Like everything, it was located under the boat. She had a replacement part, but that meant getting under the boat. And this wouldn't be too scary if you could just wait to have flat sea and no wind, but Furious 50s here. The sea is never flat, or either way, it won't be flat for the next days. And Alexa knows that is exactly what she's lacking. If she waits too long, her boat will slowly start to turn off and her chances to get home go away. Alexa looks aft and she sees the immensity of the ocean all the way around her, gray and distant, with gigantic waves more than 15 feet tall. With the wind blows with such intensity that she's almost can't think. Her skin is freezing, and the first time she's afraid. A lump in her throat, maybe a tear down her face, but then a particularly strong gust of wind causes the boat to broach slightly. The autopilot compensates to the right side while coming down of a wave. The TSE-34 starts gliding, and the log indicates an insane speed of 31 knots. Alexa's heart pounds and an adrenaline rush. She gets a mad idea. She can't possibly stop. With a little less wind and lower waves, she could try and keep the TSE-4 on such a heading to keep the waves pushing the boat aft, thus lifting the hull high enough that she can reach over and change it from topside. She rushes to the nav station. The wind shows the wind and the waves shall decrease that same night, only to increase the following morning, 25 knots wind with waves only 6 feet high. So Alexa informs her team about her decision. I'll do it tomorrow morning while the boat is in a glide. We have no idea how the ground team reacted, but apparently a mad idea, nor can we understand how Alexa spent the night waiting for the crucial dawn. But we know before leaving, she posted a wall with aphorism. The beautiful thing about fear is when you run to it, it runs away. We're living through times in which social media brims with deep phrases and hymns to bravery. Most of the keyboard warriors, after posting aphorism for the day, get up from their couch and crawl to the fridge in the slippers. But Alexa really did it. She ran to her fear, actually, and literally jumped into it alone while in the most remote part of the ocean, while the boat was gliding at a speed of 15 knots. She created a safety harness, slid outside the hull, while ice water numbed her hands. The boat rolled and the waves lashed against her, freezing her legs and feet. Alexa faced her fear, and she succumbed to the feat of change in the hydro generator without stopping. But today, when I think of somebody outstanding, I can imagine someone who's so far off the charts to be overmuch is what they do. I think of her, Alexa Barrier, the woman who scared away fear. Andrea, he wrote that article about the Vendée Globe, about the challenges just one person. 33 people left that port in France to go around the world solo, nonstop, unassisted. 25 returned to France, completing their journey. And the best score, the best time was 80 days, 3 hours, 44 minutes, and 46 seconds. Now, he did practice social distancing, but he had a little stoppage. He had to stop to pick up a fellow competitor whose boat sank. So he didn't practice social distancing for 2 days. But the last one to arrive in port, 116 days, 18 hours and 15 minutes and 46 seconds. The Vandee Globe, the ultimate in social distancing. Barry?